To get a new headstrip.
Okay.
Yeah. Should still be
That's all right. It's okay? Okay. Oh, this one. There's too many things to push.
They're all working.
Yeah, this one's as well?
Yeah.
Om Mangalam Gurudevaya Devya Matrikya Mangalam Mangalam Bhakta Brindevyo Sarva Lokaya Mangalam Om Stapakaya Chadarmasya Sarva Dharma Sarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya Mangalam Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Reva Param Brahman Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Om Sarashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Ashmarachara Prayantam Vande Gurum Paramparam Vande Gurum Paramparam Sri Guru Vyo Namaha Ganeshaya Namaha Saraswati Namaha. Are we good? Yeah. So we were going to, the time changes tomorrow, I think, right? So tomorrow it could be dark by 5. And today it could be dark before we would finish. That's why I decided to move. Already by 6 o'clock we'll be shivering outside, so this is our first. I think we'll have to move inside for the winter. It's fall and winter. Hopefully the weather gets nice. Heat and like it. We'll start outside again. But I miss seeing Laduni. It would have been nice. So last week we canceled due to some things. I think and then the week before that I think we had puja, isn't it? Was it Amavasya or something? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. The week before that, I think we were reading from the Bhakti Yoga, Swami Vivekananda. So we'll continue from that. And I think the sections we read, the definitions of bhakti, the philosophy of Ishvara, the spiritualization of the aim of Bhakti Yoga. And then we're skipping 2 sections called the need of the guru and the qualifications of the aspirant and the teacher. So those we talked about on Guru Purnima. So we jumped into that. So if you're trying to follow that, just go back to the talks on Guru Purnima we read those and spoke on that. So the Bhakti Yoga is the smallest of the 4 yogas. Swami Vivekananda, it makes not a book, it's a booklet. Right, Jnana Yoga is large, Raja Yoga is large, Karma Yoga is small, and Bhakti Yoga is booklet size. It's half dozen or a dozen small chapters. But in a small package, he puts a lot, right? And he's explaining, in a certain sense, Bhakti Yoga is a simple thing. Love God, say His name, worship, puja, japa, kirtan. They're not complicated ideas, but he's presenting these ideas to an audience that knows nothing about them. We mentioned this a couple weeks ago, that this is a very educated audience, but not educated in the basics of Hinduism. They know the general Hindu philosophy. These are all intelligent, intellectual people of the time. But like when he starts talking about the Ishta, which hopefully we'll get to, it's one of the chapters I want to read today. We'll see if we get to it. This idea doesn't exist. We don't have the Ishta idea in Western philosophy exactly. So he's having to give it. So it came to me reading this a year ago or so. That really you have to understand some of Vivekananda's 4 yogas is explaining basic ideas to smart people that don't know anything about it. right? So we have to understand it that way. So in the chapter that I'm skipping, that we spoke before, he talked about guru and the importance of the guru and disciple relationship, qualification of the guru, qualification of the disciple. And in Vedanta, in the Bhakti traditions, we have the idea of a bit of a super guru, the avatar, right? And Swami Bhajanananda in the Lila Prasanga, translated Swami Chaitanya, you have a beautiful new translation of that. He goes a lot into it, where the idea of avatar, because in Vedanta there's no avatar. It's not a philosophy in the Advaita schools of Vedanta. So he's trying to show where, but in Vedanta, they have the avatar idea, but the classical school does not have the avatar idea. So he tries to show that in the Vedic tradition there's these great souls, Mahapurushas, and there's gurus. Of course, the guru disciple tradition is always there. Those who know the truth can teach you. But there is a stratification of gurus. Not every guru is the same. Every guru is a guru, but not every guru is the same, right? There's some that have tremendous power, right? Not just tremendous realization, but along with that realization, they have a power to transmit it. It seems some have a power to transmit it through the ages, so we give them a bit of a special title. So Swami Bhajanananda shows how that's some of the idea of how the avatar idea came in the classical Advaita Vedanta. In the Bhakti school of Vedanta, they have a different. They have in the Puranas like that. We have the idea of Vishnu taking avatar for this, and the Gita saying whenever there's a decline in Dharma and a rise in Adharma, in order to protect the good and to destroy the wicked, I'm born in every age, again and again in every age. So we have that already idea established. But now Swamiji is going to try to explain this idea of the incarnation as the focus of devotion, right? So first he established the guru, and then he's jumping into beyond the guru. We have this particular way of thinking of the divine as a almost a superhuman type of being. So we'll read. It's it's only 2 pages. This chapter, but it's very powerful. This is from a chapter called Incarnations. Whenever his name is spoken, that very place is holy. Ramakrishna said that a holy place becomes holy because devotees chant God's name there. Right? Kali Mandir is a holy place. Everybody feels it. Right? And something, but the place was good, and God chose a good place. Usha chose a good place, right? We found a beautiful. The scriptures mentioned it should be private. It should be beautiful. It should be clean. Have good air near a river. There's qualifications for choosing a beautiful site. There's some auspicious signs on the property also, directional according to Vastu, things like that. We didn't choose those consciously, but this place has those qualities. But more and above this, because some mantras were chanted here by Haradanji, Haradan Chakravarti, the priest, right? And the deity was installed, Pranapatistana, whatever. We can go into that, what that means as we go along, right? But something you see, some priest brought chiseled in Jaipur and bought in Calcutta, and brought over sent on Japanese airline, right? Japan Air, right? Some stone image, right? And then the priest came and they did something, right? They chanted something, right? With some potency, right? And 25 years later, thousands of people's lives have changed, right? What has happened, right? In one sense, nothing's happened. Stone image, eccentric Brahmin, right? But something happened, right? So this is unusual. This is a very specific rite and a very powerful person from Dakshineshwar, who spent his 53 years worshipping Bhavatrini, right? But it's true. Any temple, any holy place you go into, we're in India. We visit sadhus, right? And you see sadhus are just great bhaktas. I remember one time there's a photograph. We have it here. You've seen this picture. There's 3 photographs of Sri Ramakrishna. The shrine pose. There's one where he's dancing, right, being held, and there's one where he's on a pillar. So that picture was taken in Calcutta. I remember in very good memory. He went actually not to take his picture. He went to see how pictures are taken, educational outing, right? And when the photographer was explaining how you put the phosphorus powder on the plate, and then that the image that it's exposed to in the light, it catches the image. Sri Ramakrishna thought this is the way meditation works. Right? By putting devotion on the mind, the image of God is captured. Right? And he went into ecstasy. And so he said, great, get the camera. So the picture was not meant to be a picture, but thank God we have another picture, a third picture of him in ecstasy. But I went there my first 26 years ago, 27 years ago, my first trip to India was Gita. She knew the address. We wanted to go see the camera that took Sri Ramakrishna's picture, right? And it's a storefront. Now, I don't know whether it's still, I don't remember if it's still a photography studio, but the camera was there in a glass case, and we did pranam. And then the man who showed us around, he says that, yeah, this has been in our family. This is my grandfather took this picture, right? So very interesting. Now I don't know. He said, would you like to meet his wife? No, my mother, right? Not like that. He says, she's very old, but if you want, you can meet her. He says, yes, we meet her, right? So we go in the back room, which is an empty room, completely an empty room. And on the corner, there was a grass mat, a kusha mat, and she was sitting there doing japa, right on the floor, right? And she talked to us a little bit and says, please excuse me, I'm a little busy, right? And then we went, oh, we don't want to interrupt you. And then the son said, busy means she's doing japa. she has a lot of japa to do still, before Shivaratri. But I remember, of course, Sri Ramakrishna went there. That's an important thing. But her life, this old lady's life, she's sitting in the corner on a grass mat chanting japa. Thinking about it, I still get chills, the atmosphere in that room, right? Wherever his name is spoken, that place is holy. So Sri Ramakrishna said that all holy places become holy because devotees do sadhana there. Kali Mandir is holy because so many people have chanted here. So many people praying, so much japas, kirtan, bhajan is done here, the puja mantras. So the holy name makes a place holy. How much more so the man who speaks his name, right? If a place becomes holy because God's name is spoken, how much more the body of a person that speaks his name, right? If I chant here, this place is holy, but all the time chanting here. We've done this demonstration before. We'll do it again. It's very interesting, right? If you put your hand on your chest, everybody can do, go Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah. You feel the vibration. Your whole body is vibrating. We don't think, we chant God's name, right? We have faith that you can feel your whole body is vibrating the mantra, right? So it's like, this is something. Right? Literally, it's physically vibrating, not just astrally or spiritually in some subtle way. In an actual way, it's physically vibrating to that mantra, right? So if a place becomes holy, how much more the body of a person who chants, right? This is why Sri Ramakrishna said the body of a devotee is special, right? Sri Ramakrishna uses term Bhagavati Tanu, meaning the divine body, right? That when some person does long sadhana carefully, the body becomes changed. The cells become changed. The vibration change. The patterns change. Right? It seems, And you see when you meet great devotees, great saints, they look different. Even though they're the same. Practically they're the same, but they're different. You can see. How much so, whenever his name is spoken, that very place is holy. How much more so is the man who speaks his name? And with what veneration ought we approach that man, out of whom comes to us spiritual truth? So not only the person who speaks his name, but what to speak of the person who's then revealing his name, the one who's giving us his name, who's giving us spiritual teachings. How much, if a place is holy because of mantra, if a person's body is holy because of holy vibration, how should we speak to a person whose whole life is based upon that spiritual practice, is also speaking from whom we get it? So he's establishing, these are different chapters, but it's actually one talk, right? So he's talking about the guru. Now the next step is, this is part of the veneration of a guru, right? The person who speaks his name, the one who we get is the one who reveals the name, right? How much more the man who speaks his name, and with what veneration ought we approach that man, out of whom comes to us spiritual truth. Such great teachers of spiritual truth are indeed very few in number in this world, but the world is never altogether without them. There's a few famous things, Swamiji's lines I always remember. This is one of them, right? There may not be many, right? But the world is never free from them, right? So Swamiji says that several places throughout the 4 yogas. He says that, maybe even here, I don't know, remember, I haven't looked at this in a while, but that we seem to complain, oh, there's no great saints anymore, right? And that's partially, I was overhearing an interesting discussion with my Swami Omananda, my sannyas guru, Guruji, who's today is his sannyas anniversary, so it's Kartik Purna, a very auspicious day. And Swami Govindananda, Govinda Baba, who's our Guru Bhai. Govindananda is, he's been in India, he's originally from Canada, he's been in India now 50-something years continuously. Right? And so I was not part of the conversation, I was eavesdropping the conversation. Two senior Swamis talking. Swami Omananda is saying, Govinda Baba, you practically see, you came here 50 years ago, coming to all the melas. And you know, you've been moving amongst the Babas and yogis. You see the difference. Is there the same or is it different? Well, no, it's different. He says, don't you think that 50 years ago, it was hard to find a bad Baba? Right? It's hard to find some sannyasi, some sadhu. In the real, I mean, we live in a world of real sadhus. There's all kinds of sadhus and publicity sadhus and all kinds of. We're talking about the real sadhu community. This is a community we live in there. He says that it was rare to see somebody that wasn't a good sadhu, right? But now we're wandering camp after camp looking for a good sadhu, right? This is how much has changed. We practically see it. I mean, we can say, oh, it's Kali Yuga, it's whatever Western tradition, who knows what, right? Too much fame, too much money, who knows what it is, too much ganja, whatever it is, right? The tradition has changed. Right, but that there is something here is lamenting, right? That now we don't see, but then he says, but still there's some good sadhus, right? It's not the norm anymore. Before it was you see the competition, who could be the best, who could be the purest. Now it's who could advertise the most and who make the most money and the different type of thing. They're competing a different way. Before they're competing for tapasya, right? Who could have less? I've had so many conversations which showing. I remember one time someone sadhu asked me my shoes. Where'd you get these shoes? I said, I got them in some store in America. How much do they cost? Maybe it was $8. Some cheap pair of Flohos. I remember Flohos. That was my choice of shoes in high school and the like. $8. I got these also when I was in America. They cost me $4. He was very proud. The competition is who had cheaper shoes. So that was a different type of competition than we have now, But anyway, so Guruji was saying that, well, there's still some good sadhus. They may be less, no doubt, right? But they're there. So Swamiji is also saying that the world is never without them. Another place he says, if they'd be gone, this world would cease. All dharma would cease. This conversation wouldn't happen anymore, right? We don't know the incalculable good that the yogis and sadhus and saints are doing behind the scene with their life. Such great teachers of spiritual truth are indeed very few in number in this world, but the world is never altogether without them. They are always the fairest flowers of human life, an ocean of mercy without any motive. Know that the Guru to be me, now he's quoting from the Bhagavatam, know the Guru to be me, says Sri Krishna in the Bhagavatam. In the Bhagavata. The moment the world is absolutely bereft of these, it becomes a hideous hell and hastens to its destruction. Remember just a few weeks ago, when Swami Sarvapriyananda, who was visiting Vedanta Society, you met, that's a very nice Swami. On the boat, we were at the Kali immersion in Newport Beach, and I was standing with him. He was saying, along this point, he was also saying that now there's less yogis, but the real yogis, these are quoting everything he says is quoting. He has memorized a complete work on Vivekananda. Every sentence comes out of his mouth is Swamiji says, Swamiji in one letter he says, and then one lecture he says. That's the way he speaks. Truly a master of these things. He said Swamiji said that the real saints, the great souls, right? They live, love, and disappear, right? Unknown by the world. They're never leaving their cave, never leaving their kutir. These are the great. They're the ones doing inimaginable good by their pure lives. They live and love God and disappear, unknown. And then Swami says, Swami Vivekananda, then Swamiji said something devastating. Right? That's Swamiji's strong words, right? He says this, the next layer down, these are the teachers that preach, the great preachers. These are and he says, Jesus and Buddhas and Shankaras. Right, these are three big names. These are, he says, what was the term? Second-rate heroes. right? And he wasn't insulting them. He was not. He was Swamiji was edgy in his presentation, right? But Jesus, Buddha, and Shankara, these are second-rate heroes, right? Because they had to. They're also maybe sent by maybe a divine work, but the great saints we don't know about them, right? The ones we know is already the next step down, and then there's a next step down. Those we know too much about. They have. What is it? There's darshan and pradarshan. You know if you know this term. In the Kumbh, when Sadhu told me Kumbh, we used to come here to have darshan of the saints, right? And now it's pradarshan means publicity, I think, right?
Exhibition.
Huh?
Exhibition.
Exhibition, yeah. Anyway, so higher and nobler than the ordinary teachers. Higher and nobler than all ordinary teachers in this world is another set of teachers, the avatars of Ishvara. So we have our gurus, but above the normal gurus is another category. He saw as the avatars of Ishvara. Remember, he just talked about gurus in the previous chapter, and before that he talked about Ishvara. So bhakti is only for Ishvara. We describe what is Ishvara. We describe Ishvara as we would in Western world call God, the creator, sustainer, destroyer, revealer, and coverer, right? That's the 5 qualities of Ishvara. Swamiji goes into that. But now there's also above the Guru and below Ishvara, there's the avatars of Ishvara. It's a new category Swamiji is establishing. They can transmit spirituality with a touch, even with a mere wish. At their command, the lowest and most degraded characters become saints in 1 second. Swamiji, in his discipleship lecture, he says, if Jesus were to say, when he said, go and sin no more, right, your sins are forgiven, right? He says the person can no longer sin. His words are transformative. We say, nothing happens. Ramakrishna says that's the difference between regular teacher and divine teachers. Their words have potency, right? Swamiji said that religion can be given like a fruit. If I have an apple and I give you an apple, now you have an apple. Spirituality realization can be given by such means, just like that. Not slowly taught, and hopefully you'd practice something, and it's like it can be transmitted, right? They can. Some Vivekananda said Sri Ramakrishna could mold people's minds like clay in his hand, or you could give it any twist you wanted. Such spiritual power. They can transmit spirituality with a mere touch, even by a mere wish. At their command, the lowest and most degraded characters become saints in 1 second. They are the teachers of all teachers, the highest manifestations of God through man. We cannot see God except through them. We cannot help worshipping them. And indeed, they are the only ones whom we are bound to worship. We cannot see God except through them. And so you can see in religions that are a little bit absolutists, right? That same principle, trying to take away the sectarian, fanatical interpretation. But a similar statement could be said, no one comes to the Father but through me. Jesus said, right? A lot of people who follow him believe that means exclusively through him, right? If you take it a little more philosophically, a little more abstractly, as a principle, we can see that it's Swamiji saying the same thing. It's only through the avatar that one can see the absolute. Only through the Son, in Christian language, can one see the Father. Possibility like this. Sri Ramakrishna gives beautiful example. He says that, and he said it many times, and he used to ask him, what did I say about the avatar? What did I say? And would have to repeat it. It was an important teaching. He'd test him on, so we should be tested on it. He said, you said it was like a window or hole in a wall. Right? What did I mean by that? He'd investigate. So for an example, like you have an infinite expanse outside, and you have a small dark room, right? And in that there's a small hole, right? Through that hole, you could see the infinite expanse. He said that's Sri Ramakrishna's example of the avatar, right? So through the avatar, one knows the infinite, right? But a hole or a window or a door, we can expand it and to expand the idea, like it is like this door here, right? If you didn't know that it was a door, you'd think, oh, and you look at this wall, right? There you have a wall. That part of the wall looks like that. This part of the wall looks like this. It looks like it has plants painted on it, not knowing that the plants on the outside, right? You couldn't tell if you didn't know what you're looking at. You couldn't tell that the window is showing something beyond it. You'd think this is the nature of the inside. The inside of this room, the walls painted like trees, not knowing those trees are outside. And then, like, this is all clean and clear. The windows are clean today. What about that window, this door over here where it's open? It looks no different, right? But that one, there's not even glass. Not only revealing the outside, it is the outside, right? So in between the inside of the house and the outside of the house, right? That's the avatar, right? Because is the doorway part of the wall, or is it part of the outside space? It's both part of the wall and part of the outside space. We say it's both the infinite and the human. It's both the unmanifest and the manifest. The formless and the form. The formless in form. We'd sometimes use the idea of the incarnation or the descent. So it has both, it seems to partake of both qualities, right? But actually, to say, oh, the door is part of the wall, that's language. It's okay, we can think that way. When seen from the inside, we think that, right? But there's nothing there. It's only the infinite. These windows are revealing something infinitely outside, but we don't see it, right? So we can think, oh, that's just a human. Krishna is just a human. Ram is just a human. We can see he did all human things. We can interpret everything he did in a human way. Right? And we're missing what we're seeing. We cannot see God except through them. We cannot help but worshiping them. No man can really see God except through these human manifestations. If we try to see God otherwise, we must make ourselves a hideous creature of Him and believe that caricature to be as good as the original. When I first read this many, many, many years ago, I've spent most of my life fighting Swami Vivekananda, I have to admit. So this is we're presenting it after he's won most of the fights. So that's why I'm not correcting Swami Vivekananda. I'm teaching Swami Vivekananda, but I spent all the points I'd fight. This is also one of the points I fought. Not that I'm against the avatar. We worship Sri Ramakrishna as an avatar. We worship Krishna as an avatar. But the idea, we don't need an avatar. We have Kali. Kali's not an avatar. Why do we need Krishna and an incarnation of Vishnu? Why not worship Vishnu? We don't need an incarnation of Kali. Why not worship Kali? Right? And of course, it's not exactly, he used by God here, he means Ishvara, which is an unknowable first cause and the cause of everything, the support of everything. It's not a person in normal sense. How do you know Ishvara? How do you know the Absolute? How do you know Brahman? It's not a noble thing. So, but we also believe that Kali is Brahman. Kali is Ishvara, right? Or Shiva is Ishvara, or Shiva is Brahman, right? And actually in the next 2 chapters later, he talks about images and deities. So he's not against this, but still there's something, because even we worship Kali, we can meditate on her name, her form, right? Her rupa, her lila, her gunas, her qualities, her dham, right? Right. And in a certain sense, we're seeing her also as an avatar, right? She's just like the window or the door, right? She's the Brahman in a way we can think about. But it's not a normal way to think about, because we're thinking about something that's not possible. Like Kali has 4 arms, right? So that's not a thing. There's nobody who has 4 arms, right? So we're thinking, even though we have a form we can think about, we're thinking about something that's not a thing, right? So we don't, in a certain sense, to show we can't get caught in it. She's representing something beyond thought. Right, it's not. We have an image in our mind. Actually, these images are also called yantras and tantras. The murtis of the deities. The Ganesha was his head. Was elephant head and like that. These are yantras, all just like the geometric design. These are ways of organizing things in the mind to understand something, to think of something, to contemplate something that's beyond our thinking. Right. So in a certain sense, we're not supposed to get caught in the image, although we're supposed to meditate on the image. But the image is like, Kali actually has 4 arms and her tongue sticking her tongue out. That's okay, but how far can you push that? It's like, we're going to start a campaign that the only true God is sticking out our tongue. And those who don't think that are fools and don't know anything, that are deepest ignorance, and they're pagans and will never reach the lotus feet of the Godhead because they don't know that God has her tongue sticking out. It falls apart if you push these things too far, right? So it is a revelation. It is a certain type of avatar, but it's not within the real realm of thinking, right? These are things that we can think about them, but they're supernatural images. But the avatar, the human avatar, is a person, right? So that person we can know, right? And so even Kali we know through her saints, right? Even Kali we know through Sri Ramakrishna, for example, right? Krishna, of course. Vishnu, what do we know? We know it through Krishna, through Rama. Even Krishna and Rama have become very abstract. So now we know them through Chaitanya. Right? You can see even it continues to be revealed in the ways that we can relate to it. Right? Because I read in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna had 16,000 wives that he kept in 16,000 palaces. Right? It's like, so even that, okay, that's the avatar, I can understand. But even that's a not understandable avatar. It's beyond human conception, right? Right? I one time read that verse to somebody thinking they'd give some sarcastic response. Like, just see how powerful, and he walked away. This shows you how powerful Krishna is. He had full faith in Krishna. Very opulent, he said. Right? But when we see a perfect human or a beyond perfect human being, right, the avatar, that we can think about. It's within the realm of our contemplation. It's the greatest thing we can think about. Beyond that, we can't. It becomes an imagination, right? It's God known, right? It's the unknowable God known, the unthinkable one thought, revealed within our experience. No man can really see God except through these human manifestations. If we try to see God otherwise, we make for ourselves a hideous caricature of Him and believe the caricature to be as good as the original. See, we make an image. Some people think that's the real idolatry. Did I say it right? I always get it wrong. They're slightly different. Be careful how we idolatry, right? We make what is it? We make an image of something. We make not even an image. Right? We believe you can make an image of the divine as long as you understand what it is, right? But you make a caricature, right? I mean something. It's nowhere close. It's a bad copy. Like a caricature. Like somebody does a caricature drawing of you. You pay $8 on the boardwalk and they draw. It kind of looks like you, but it's cartoony. It doesn't really look like you. It's not And you say, this is. I mean, I've had a caricature of myself drawn, and during high school, me floating, right? Floating. I'm supposed to be a meditating yoga like that. I can say, see, wow, Swami Bhajanananda can levitate. Look, proof. There's a picture of him levitating. Right? You couldn't take that seriously. If you did take that seriously, you'd be foolish. Right? That's a problem. When you can make a caricature of something beyond our understanding and think, this is the real thing. God definitely has her tongue sticking out. If you don't think so, you're a fool. It becomes ridiculable, right? There is a story of an ignorant man who was asked to make an image of the god Shiva, and who, after days of hard struggle, manufactured only the image of a monkey. So this is somebody asked Swami Vivekananda, please write the life of Sri Ramakrishna. And he quoted, this is actually, I think it's a verse. He's quoting a known, here he's just saying that, yes, if I start to make an image of Shiva, I shall make an image of a monkey. That's the danger. Because what do I know of Shiva? Right? So that's the thing, you make something and he says, no. But the danger is then, Shiva's a monkey. Of course he is a monkey, Jai Hanuman, but that's a different thing. We won't stretch it. So whenever we try to think of God as He is, in His absolute perfection, we inevitably meet with the most miserable failure, because as long as we are men, we cannot conceive of Him as being anything higher than a man. The time will come when we shall transcend our human nature and know Him as He is. But as long as we are men, here means human, it's an old antiquated language, we must worship Him as man, Him in man and as a man. I want to give an example, but I want to make sure it's not. I won't give the example because these examples given 2 paragraphs later. Talk as you may, try as you may, you cannot think of God except as a man. You may deliver great intellectual discourses on God and all the things under the sun, become a great rationalist, and prove to your satisfaction all these accounts of the avatars of God as man are mere nonsense. But let us come for a moment to practical common sense. What is there behind this kind of remarkable intellect? Zero. Nothing. Simply so much froth. When you hear a man delivering a great intellectual lecture against the worship of the avatar of God, get hold of him and ask him what is his idea of God. What his idea of God is. What he understands by omnipotence, omnipresence, and all such terms, beyond the spelling of the words. He says, oh no, we can't worship. God's not a man. He's omnipresent and omniscient and omnipotent, right? So what did you mean by this? Beyond, like I said, beyond the measurement, So what is omnipresent? Really powerful. What does that mean? All powerful. What does that mean? It's like you come with some human idea of a really powerful thing, and by abstraction think more powerful than that. Beyond that, we can't think of anything. We don't know what all powerful is. It's just an idea. It's a word, right? It's a human thought, right? It's already a blasphemy, right? You're not actually saying anything, right? Infinite. As we think of infinite, Swamiji says that you think of infinite, you think of like the sky. The sky is not infinite, right? We know that, right? It's just a big thing we can think about. Because it goes beyond our immediate perception, so we think that's infinite, right? Really big is not infinite, right? So then we take real big and it's much bigger than that, right? The Bhakti Yoga starts. The talks at the Parliament start with that. Remember we read that story of the frog in the well, right? When a frog had lived in the well his whole life, another frog like from the ocean came and fell in that well, and the first frog said, "Where are you from?" "I'm from the ocean." "How big is the ocean? Is it as big as my well?" Right? He goes, "Big as your well? Don't be silly to say such a thing. It's much bigger than your well. Bigger than my well? How's it? Is it twice as big as my well?" Right? No. You can't conceive it. "Oh, I don't believe you. Nothing's big in my well. Get out of here. You're a liar. Get out of here. I don't believe you." Right? That's the same idea. Even ideas of omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, all these big words, omni, the bigger, infinitely infinite. These are just words. Beyond the spell of the words. He really means nothing by them. He cannot formulate at their meaning any idea unaffected by his own human nature. He is no better off in this matter than a man in the street who has not read a single book. That man in the street, however, is quiet and does not disturb the peace of the world, while the big talker creates disturbance and misery among mankind. Religion is, after all, realization, and we must make the sharpest distinction between talk and intuitive experience. So Swamiji has many new definitions for the modern age, one of which is religion means realization. We usually think religion means it's a set of doctrines, right? A set of teachings, a set of beliefs. Right? That's usually what we mean by religion. I mean, when I study religion in school, you study religion in school, that's basically what do you study? Comparative religion is comparing the doctrines and the practices of different religious groups, right? And their development through history and their influences on politics and, whatever the subtopic that you're studying in school, right? But his Swamiji's definition, religion means realization, right? And we must make a sharp distinction between talk and intuitive experience. It's a great line, right? Like what we think, what we can speak, and what we actually know is always something different, right? In the Jnana Yoga, in Raja Yoga, Swamiji says that there's huge arguments for people who have not realized, do not have direct intuitive experience of God, making arguments for and against the existence of God, right? And we've studied in school. I've taken whole courses on this, on arguments for the existence of God or against the existence of God, right? But the people that we actually believe, we have some faith in, the people who've actually had direct experience of this, those who have claimed to have direct experience, they never make such arguments. When they're like, if you're trying to, how do you know God exists? Well, I know God exists because there's a cause. There's an effect. You can't have an effect without a cause, and you haven't, there's a design, and you can't have a design without a designer. Or I can give all the normal arguments for existence. That's how I know God exists, right? But if you ask a saint, how do you know God exists? They usually smile, right? He says, "I know, and you can also know." right? It's not only I know, you can also know, right? When Swami Vivekananda first came to Sri Ramakrishna, his first question, have you seen God? Right? It's a very big question, right? Not do you believe in God, and what are the arguments for his existence, right? In by the challenge of the modern, what's your response to the modern challenge to religion? That's how I would do it. I've asked that question to people. It makes for a very fascinating discussion. I love that stuff. We call it in time pass. This is a hobby, right? This type of discussion is a nice hobby for those who have some interest in it. But he didn't ask that. He asked, "Have you seen God?" And Thakur said, "Yes." Right? That's a huge. Think about it. It's a huge statement, right? Right. And then he said, "Not only that, you can see him." Right? That's an even bigger statement. So it's not because you think of not only religion is realization, but whose realization? Not Sri Ramakrishna's realization. Right? This is the problem. This has been our discussion in our morning coffee time here, right? The last few days, that a lot of people, most religions start with somebody saying, "I've seen God," right? Or, "I've realized the truth. The prophecy has been given." Right, I know the revelation has been given to me. An angel spoke to me, or something. Fit in all these different things, right? And now religion is people's response to that person's claim. Right, right. Do you believe me or not? Believe me and follow me, or follow or accept the revelation, the new truth, right? But that's not what Sri Ramakrishna said. Right, he says that if God exists and can be seen, you can see him. Right? Religion is your realization, not the prophet's realization. Right? So it's a very different thing. I've been meditating on this one little scene, obviously very important. It's changed history, perhaps, this discussion, but I think it's very significant that Swami Vivekananda's question and Sri Ramakrishna's answer is very, very powerful. It's a new definition of religion. But it's in the intellectual world, Swami Vivekananda gave this new definition for religion means realization, right? But it's not the new definition. This is the ancient definition of religion, right? This is the Vedic definition of religion. This is the definition given in the Upanishads. This is the definition given in the Yoga Sutra. This is the definition given in the Bhagavad, right? Your personal realization. We may believe in somebody else's realization, and that might give us faith to follow their technique or their teachings or advice. Right? But if we don't experience it, what's the value? Somebody else, God spoke to somebody else a long time ago. That's good, maybe, right? It's probably also not true. If somebody claims, God spoke to me. I said, where is he? Where is he? Can I see? No. He said he's not speaking. He's finished. He won't speak to anybody. Not you. You have to trust me. Yeah, that makes me very weary. that the setup is wrong. It's a weird setup, Right, but somebody said, "Oh, God spoke to me." Really? What do you say? What? That's very interesting. So Sri Ramakrishna gave an example of somebody. There's a wall, and somebody hears some music, some partying, some joy sounding on the other side of that wall, and so somebody climbs up and he sees, and he jumps in. Right. So that's most mystics. They have direct realization, but they fall. They're on the other side of the wall, right? And we say, where do they go? Right. And maybe but once in a while there's somebody who's in the front and goes, wonderful, wonderful. And then out of mercy, he turns around and says, hey, it's over here. Not like I've seen it, therefore do what I say, right? Or believe that or sit there and worship that wall forever. No, you can also look, come. It's so wonderful. So they have the experience and they're encouraging you, and we have faith in them and their experience, right? But that faith only works because they're saying it's still there to be experienced. Right? I experienced something a long time ago, and nobody else will ever experience it. I don't think that faith is very useful, right? If religion means realization, but I've had the experience. You can also have the experience. That's a new. It's the ancient definition and the new definition of religion. Religion means realization. We must make the sharpest distinction between talk and intuitive experience. Anubhava is a word for this intuitive experience. What we experience in the depths of our souls is realization. Nothing indeed is so uncommon as common sense in regard to this matter. You can see, it wasn't my little discussion the last 5 minutes is not that hard, right? We never think about this. Oh my God, there's a new, have you heard the good news? You know, fill in whatever the good news is, right? Can we experience it? Yeah, tell me.
Question.
Tell me.
So when they reference God, do they mean Brahman? And when they say realize, you will realize it, you will also realize.
People mean different things, right? Swamiji starts by describing what's meant by God, as by describing Ishvara in the context of bhakti. But people saying whatever God, Brahman, self, Krishna, avatar, whatever the goal is, whatever the claim is it something somebody else realized or is it something you can realize? That's ultimately the point, right? Right. Because also, I mean, just because somebody says I've realized, and you can also realize they could also be manipulating you. That's also true, right? That's not a proof of anything, right? But somebody says I've realized it and you can't, right, or won't, right, or maybe it will after you die. That's definitely not satisfying. We shouldn't put our guard down just because somebody says I've realized it. And if you follow me, you can too. That's also potential for misuse, obviously, right? That's on you. But we have to. It's still the. Okay, the point. By our present constitution, we are limited and bound to see God as man. Why? Because we're humans. We can only understand the highest extent of a human. If, for instance, this is the one I remember, the buffalo wants to worship God, they will, in keeping with their own nature, see him as a huge buffalo. Right? What is God like? When a buffalo, Swamiji says, what is God like? When buffalo asks his friend. Goes to his teacher, guru. Oh, yes. Very big buffalo with very big horns, this big. Right? The thing we know at the highest extent, that's all we can think. Right? They will have keeping with their own nature, they will see him as a huge buffalo. If a fish wants to worship God, they will have to form the idea of him as a big fish, and men have to think of him as a man. And these various conceptions are not due to a morbidly active imagination. Sorry, my tongue got stuck. Man, buffalo, and fish may all be supposed to represent so many different vessels, so to say. All these vessels go to the sea of God and get filled with water, each according to own shape and capacity. And man, the water takes the shape of a man. In a buffalo, the shape of a buffalo, and in a fish, the shape of a fish. In each of these vessels, there is the same water of the sea of God. When men see him, they see him as man and the animals, and if they have any conception of God at all, must see him as the animal, each according to his own ideal. So we cannot help seeing God as a man, and therefore we are bound to worship him as a man. There is no other way. The idea of the vessel is very important, right? A glass of water is water, right? Although it's also a glass, right? But it's water. When you say an empty glass is barely a glass, right? So we've told this example many times, seen in the life of Neem Karoli Baba, right? And somebody was saying, but because you just say Neem Karoli, you say Ram Ram. You say Ram, 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 that was Vishnu. But Ram, 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 isn't that limiting God to say God is Ram? Why isn't God Krishna? What about Shiva? What about Jesus? What about the absolute Brahman? Why give it a name? Why give it a form? Why don't these things limit? Why think of him as the name Ram or the person Ram that lived thousands of years ago in Ayodhya and his wife got kidnapped and cried when his wife got, it's like, it's the human story, the human seeming mythological story. How is that? Doesn't that limit God, right? And so, as Neem Karoli Baba's habit, he wasn't a philosopher, he was a mystic, and he created a scene to teach something by an example, right? So, anyways, he probably talked to somebody else told the story of my kid needs to go to school, not doing well in class. Change the topic. In the meanwhile, he asked the first person, "Go get me a glass of water." And the guy goes up and gets him a glass of water, and he brings back Neem Karoli Baba. He says, "What is this? I wanted water." And not looking, "I brought you water." He says, "No, you brought me a glass. I don't want a glass. I want water. Give me what I want." Right? What do you do? If I ask for a glass of water, you bring me, and I didn't want a glass, I want water. So obviously, you can't bring water without a glass in this common sense setting, right? That was the point, that the vessel does not limit God. It reveals God. Right? The name of God or the form of God or the avatar of God does not limit the absolute. It's filled with the absolute only. It's bringing the absolute to us. Right? So it's not a limitation, it's a revelation. Right? If you see it as such. Jai Ma, Jennifer. It's a very big idea, I think. Two kinds of men do not worship God as man. The human brute who has no religion, right? The brute with no religion doesn't worship God as man. And the Paramahansa, who has risen beyond all the weaknesses of humanity and has transcended the limits of his own human nature. The Paramahansa, the Parivrajaka Paramahansa, the highest realized being, right? Who's beyond his own human limitations, right? But what happens instead, we have religious preachers saying, "Don't worship God as man; it's a limitation." Right? But the brute doesn't know better, and the Paramahansa has transcended it. Anybody in between is speaking nonsense. That's Swamiji's point. To him, all nature has become his own self. This is talking to Paramahansa. He alone can worship God as he is. Here too, as in the other cases, the two extremes meet. The extreme of ignorance and the other extreme of knowledge. Neither of these goes through acts of worship. The human brute does not worship because of his ignorance, and the jiva muktas, the free souls, do not worship because he has realized God in themselves. If anyone between these two poles of existence tells you that he is not going to worship God as man, kindly beware of such a person. He is, not to use a harsher terms, an irresponsible talker. His religion is for unsound and empty brains. God understands human feelings and becomes man to do good to humanity. This is a beautiful. He's talking pretty kind of edgy philosophy. Philosophy was the Swamiji style, right? But here immediately it switches. Not only we can only worship God with man, we can't think of anything beyond the human nature, but here it's the real idea of the avatar, right? God, out of love, becomes man, right? This one, he only gives it like 1 or 2 sentences, but it's the secret of the whole thing. God understands human's nature, our limited nature, and becomes man to do good to humanity. And he quotes from the Gita, whenever virtue subsides and wickedness prevails, I manifest myself. To establish virtue, to destroy evil, and to save the good, I embody myself in every yuga. Yuge, yuge. And another verse, fools deride me, who have assumed the human form, without knowing my real nature as the Lord of the universe. Such is Sri Krishna's declarations in the Gita on the Incarnation. When a huge tidal wave comes, says Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, all the little brooks and ditches become full to the brim without any effort or consciousness on their own part. So when the Incarnation comes, the tidal wave of spirituality breaks upon the world, and people feel spirituality in the very air. This is the famous saying of Sri Ramakrishna. When a tidal wave comes, there's water everywhere. Right now, we're looking at it didn't rain. We were hoping it was whole week. We're thinking it was going to rain today. After the fires, there was so much heat. It's not hot. We're still in danger. We're looking at the sky, hoping for rain. And today, no clouds. The rain went away. Where to go? Right? We look at the river. It's empty. Right? There's no crawdads. There's no tadpoles. They probably have all died. Right? In the last week or so. Right? It's like, and maybe a little rain comes. We get a little bit of water here, a little bit of water here, like that. But if a huge flood comes, we've had that experience too. Also dangerous, right? But then there's water everywhere. And you'll find fish, big fish you'll find in the gutter, right, after a big flood or a tidal wave, right? So it says an avatar comes, the whole area is inundated with fresh spirituality, right? It's different. Spiritual ideas, spiritual people, the saints, you see, everything is overwhelmed. People feel spirituality in the air. So that's that very small chapter on Avatar. But I love that when God understands human feelings, it becomes a man to do good to humanity. But But then he quotes the Gita, that's the classic definition or the reason given by Krishna at least. Whenever dharma, adharma rises and dharma subsides. Irreligion, you could say, or righteousness goes down, unrighteousness rises. Religion declines and irreligion rises. Then when that happens, in order to, he gives different reasons, to protect the good, right, and to destroy the wicked, or wickedness, we would probably use in the modern sense, right, and to reestablish dharma. I mean, every yuga, in every age I'm born. So this is the thing, he's not just one time, whenever, because this happens again and again, right? Sometimes it happens. It happens throughout the day. Sometimes religion rises, and irreligion we can see continuously where we have this experience, right? But in every age, in the Bhagavatam, in the first section in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it lists maybe 34 avatars, right? We usually think of the 10 classic, but that's a medieval list of the Dash avatar. But so many avatars are given, and then it says, but actually I'm given a very partial list. Actually, there is many avatars in the world, not just on this cosmic view of the thing, in cosmic time and cosmic space, as there are drops of water in an eternal waterfall, right? So we don't, how God is manifesting, we don't, it's infinite amount, right? But the reason is, so in the Bhagavatam also, 3 types of avatars are given. One is called Guna avatar. This is Brahman or Ishvara becomes Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva according to the gunas, in order to create, sustain, and destroy. There's Leela avatars. These are like Krishna and Ram, like that. They're born to kill Ravana. Rama is born to like that, or these type of things. Kurma to save the earth. Matsya to save the Vedas. These stories are there. And then there's Yuga avatars. These are born to give a particular teaching of the age, a new revelation for a particular period of time. Right. So the different types of avatars are given. It's a small section, but I think very powerful. Any questions or comments on this before I move to the next section?
What would be examples of yoga avatar?
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it said he came to give the Yuga Dharma, the religion of the Kali Yuga, of the chanting of the holy name, Bhakti and the chant and Nam Sankirtan. Sri Ramakrishna also said some people hold that Sri Ramakrishna is in that category, a new revelation. It's the old revelation, but a new emphasis, and part of which is universality of religion, right? The truth of all religions, and they're part of it, and tradition of longing, right? You would say, like, what we consider in the prophetic tradition, a prophet comes with a message to mankind for that period. That could be something like that. And so sometimes within that, the Yuga avatar, sometimes it's believed that God himself or God itself manifests, right? Like that. Or sometimes there's a different type of avatar called Shakti Avesh avatar. Shakti Avesh avatar means clothed in Shakti. It means empowered. Right, somebody that comes with a message of God, not God, but somebody like we could say like Shankaracharya to be like that, right? He comes with a message for, like a prophet or something like that. Be something a messenger of God. You can sometimes say, right? It's a different category, but Yuga avatar is, and so Yuga Dharma means something for a period, a time, a yuga, right? So it's not good. It's not universal. It's universal, but it's not. It's specialty for this time, right? And so Sri Ramakrishna said in Kali Yuga especially, right? Bhakti, Naradiya Bhakti is the path, right? Not Bhakti devotion as taught by Narada, right? Which means chanting. Actually, this is what this Bhakti Yoga section is talking about. Naradiya Bhakti. So I'm just intellectually describing Naradiya Bhakti, the path of this age. Lost my place. Incarnations. What time is it? Oh. We'll do the next is a small section, and then and because we'll have RT in a few minutes. I'll go 10, 15 minutes. But we are now considering not these Mahapurushas, the great incarnation, but only the Siddha Gurus, the teachers who have attained the goal. That's a different thing. So we have the avatars. Now, okay, we've talked about them a little bit. We've talked about the Guru, but let's talk about below the avatar, below Ishvara, below the avatar, and below regular, there's Siddha Guru. Siddha means one who has attained, right? So it means the realized teacher, the realized saint who acts as a teacher, right? The Siddha Guru. Those who have attained the goal. They, as a rule, have to convey the gems of spiritual wisdom to the disciple by means of mantras, or words to be meditated upon. What are these mantras? That's the next topic, right? So there are some who are lucky to be literally in the presence of the avatar, disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, example, right? An unusual batch, right? You know, because I can tell you, practically speaking, people I consider and I've seen great saints, people of great realization and great authenticity, and they have their group of disciples. If one or two disciples are good, that's a very big thing, right? Actually, a guru needs one good disciple to keep a lineage alive, right? And practically speaking, usually, because people who are attracted to, it's a mixed group that's attracted to gurus, right? So there's all types, not all of the same. But you see, it's very interesting. If you look at Sri Ramakrishna's disciples, they're extraordinary. Each one is extraordinary, right? You won't see each one of them could be a world teacher on their own, right? So it's unique. So the disciples or companions, we would also say, of the avatar are unique. But what about the rest, right? The regular guru, can't say regular guru, the Siddha Guru, the perfected guru, the guru who have attainment, who attain knowledge or some realization, sufficient to have the power to pass it on. They do so, not just through a glance, through, their flooding the world with their spiritual current, like Sri Ramakrishna or something like that, but by initiation. I mean, by giving mantra, a word like that. So what are these mantras? Now the next topic. So usually the Siddhanta, the teachings of a tradition are passed. Of course, I can explain to you the tattva, the teachings. That's also Siddhanta. But the real Siddhanta is not just a teaching. It's not just intellectual knowledge. It's intuitive realization, right? And intuitive realization requires meditation, right? And so the power of the tradition, the power of the realization of the guru, is passed on through the mantra. So that's what he's talking about. So then Swamiji gets a little bit tantric with vibrational theory. He starts, let's talk about not just specific mantra, let's talk about sound, cosmic, divine sound itself. The whole of this universe has, according to Indian philosophy, both name and form as its conditions to manifestation. Name and form in Sanskrit are what? Nama and Rupa. Nama Rupa, right? So the universe is Nama and Rupa, it seems, right? Behind the universe, what is there? Of course, we're using words that are beyond our understanding, but scriptures tell us beyond everything is Satchitananda, Brahman, right? If you give it qualities, you can give it that. All these words also are beyond, like infinite, like beyond our ideas, but we can give it like that. But everything we see, the manifest world, is only Nama Rupa, name and form. It's very hard. Of course, we have an emotional mind, we can feel, but even that also, given enough time, it'll take the shape of a thought, even our feelings, right? But our thoughts are almost only in name and form. Very hard to have a non-specific thought. Right? We think in names and forms, right? So by Swamiji saying that we can't think of God beyond the human form, but we can't think of God, to get a little more subtle, we can't think beyond name and form. Not just think of God, we can't think of anything beyond name and form. Because we think in name and form, right? The universe we see is made out of our thoughts, expanded through our experiences of name and form. Whatever we see, if there's something beyond name and form, we see it as name and form. That's the thing, right? Maybe there's only name and form, and therefore we're seeing properly, which I doubt, right? There's good evidence that's not true. But whatever we see, we see it as name and form. We can't think of it otherwise, right? So how to think of something? Okay, think of God beyond name and form. That's not a thing to do. We can't think beyond name and form until you stop thought. That's a different thing, right? Yoga Sutta dimension. If you go beyond thought, you go beyond. That's a different. But to think of anything requires name and form, right? So, my Guruji used to say, his guru, Yogaraj Handiya Baba, when he went to me, he says, "Give me the highest teaching. Think nothing." That was the instruction. So turns out not easy, right? But if you want to know which is beyond name and form, don't think, because you think in name and form. Stop the mind, right? But that's not easy. So our Guruji told, he says, there's two ways. Think nothing, but that is difficult. Even Krishna says when Arjuna asked the same question, the unmanifest is hard to think of, right? He said, or think one thing, right? He said that's the next step down, right? But not just think anything. You have to think, if you're going to think one thing, it's got to have a name and form. But think that name and form which is divine, which means that which is beyond name and form, right? The name and form which leads beyond itself, right? This is an interesting thing. There's a very, a devastating mantra. I like that term, like a devastating idea. In the Veda, it says, Aveda Vedo Bhava. Right? It's an Upanishadic mantra, right? The Vedas become not Vedas, right? So what religion tells you, this scripture, you'll have to reject the scripture. When you realize the scripture, you'll go beyond the scripture, right? The religion will say, this religion, to really know this religion, you have to go beyond. This religion become non-religion, right? It's an escape button, right? It's very interesting that very few people will tell you, if you practice this religion, you'll eventually give it up. Right? That's nobody will, I can't say nobody, but very few people will tell you that. That's not usually the religious preaching, right? Vedo Avedo Bhava. It's a beautiful mantra. I think it's very tremendous idea that the Vedas, when you go deep in realization, the Vedas become non-Veda, or mantra becomes not mantra, or rupa becomes not rupa, right? You'll go beyond the idea of God to find God, right? That's the idea. Go beyond, anyway, you can't even talk about the idea of going beyond ideas without using the word idea. We can't think beyond the Namarupa, right? So Guruji said, think nothing or think one thing. But what is that one thing? That one thing shouldn't be anything. Of course, you can think anything. There's, the Bhairava Tantra describes anything can be object of meditation. Through the process of meditation, one can go beyond thought like that. But it's helpful if the object of meditation is connected in a very direct way to that which is beyond the infinite. Or what did you wrote you quoted the image? What's the best image of the ocean? A wave is a great image of the ocean, right? Because a wave is itself the ocean, right? And you can mean the wave, but when you say wave, you really mean ocean. It's your little experiential part of the ocean is the wave, right? So the best symbol of the ocean is a wave, right? So Guruji said that you have to think of God in seed form, the form of the thought that has the full thing. That means that which is beyond itself, right? Yeah. Go back to that. The whole of this universe has, according to Indian philosophy, both name and form, and its conditions of manifestation. In the human microcosm, there cannot be a single wave in the mind stuff, which is not conditioned by name and form. In the chitta, every movement of the chitta is name and form. That we have to remember. If it be true that the nature is built throughout on the same plan, means this is that the microcosm and the microcosm are built upon the same plan. Probably you've heard that's a basic principle of Tantra. Also the Hermetic mystery, as below, so above, or as above, so below, something like that. There's some statement like that. I mean, if it's true that our very thoughts in the chitta cannot, any vibration of the chitta has name and form as its basis. That's true, extended out from the beginningless vibration in the consciousness to the most external manifestation, right? From the microcosm to the microcosm. This kind of conditioning by name and form must also be the plan of the building of the whole of the cosmos. As one lump of clay being known, this is the verse in the Upanishad, all things of clay are known, end quote. So the knowledge of the microcosm must lead to the knowledge of the macrocosm. If you know your own consciousness the way you think, you'll know the manifestation itself. Now, the form of the outer crust And the name or the ideas is the inner essence or the kernel. This body is the form, and the mind, or antakarana, is the name. The sound symbols are universally associated with names in all beings having the power of speech. In the individual man, the thought waves rising in the limited mahat, known as the chitta or the mind stuff, must manifest themselves first as words, and then as a more concrete form. This gets very chitta and mahat, and this is using the language of Samkhya, but the outer crust of the body and the external world, and the antakarana, the inner being, which means antakarana is mind, manas, buddhi, ahamkara, mind, intellect, and ego. But it's from the inner being, the inner vibration expands and manifests as the external. Simplified, overly simplified, but that's how we'll do it. The external form, more concrete forms. Gets a little bit universal here. In the universe, Brahma, Hiranyagarbha, or the cosmic Mahat, first manifested himself as name and then as form. That is to say, as this universe. All this expressed, sensible universe is the form, and behind it stands the eternal inexpressible spota, the manifester as logos or word. This eternal spota, the essential, the eternal material of all ideas and names, is the power through which the Lord creates the universe. Nay, the Lord first becomes conditioned as a spota, and then evolves himself as yet more concrete, sensible universe. This spota has one word as its only possible symbol, and we'll go into that, what that symbol is. So this is a dense idea. It's used, the spota or spanda uses, we have the same idea in Tantra, and in Sanskrit grammar and linguistics, Sanskrit linguistics, right? Spota is that, let me find here. Brahman becomes spota, the manifester, the eternal spota, the essential, the eternal. So, what is that in the Gospel of John? How does it start? In the beginning was the Word, right? And the Word was with God, and the Word was God, right? And the word, right, when it says in the beginning was the Word in Greek, logos, right? So this is a very special thing, and that this line, in the beginning was the Word was God, and the Word was God, right? There's identical sentences in the Upanishads. I didn't think ahead of time. I would have looked them up because it's very interesting. There's people have said this is like idea by, not word by word, it's different languages, but idea by idea, sentence structure identical, right? This is a whether it's taken from the Upanishads or to cultures and to realize the exact same truth. In the beginning, there was the Word, the logos, or the spanda or spata, right? And the Word was with God and was God. So Brahman, the supreme Brahman, becomes a vibration, becomes a word to manifest. Now, in Tantra, we have this idea that within the infinite field of the infinite being, the infinite field of awareness, right, unmoving, unchanging, there seems to be, right, for all intended purposes, some little thump, some little drop, some vibration, right? We call that spanda, some vibration, some drop, some thump. I don't know how else to describe it, right? I can see it. I can imagine it in a glass of water, right? From that vibration, what happens? It starts vibrating out, right? So that's interesting. So as soon as you have a vibration, what happens? It manifests, right? That's the thing. It doesn't stop. It manifests, and as it manifests, if you ever drop the pebble into a pond of water, right? You can see it. You see it dripping. Then what happens? The waves are not equal. Nature vibration is always going to be a little bit off, right? And they'll start separating different distances, and they start interacting with each other. And pretty soon you have waves that will create new waves that go the other direction, and new waves go, and then they hit the edge and come back. And pretty soon you end up with a fully agitated lake or top, right? That's how one sound becomes the manifested world, right? In Tantra it describes it, right? There's Nagesbata, this is an ancient grammarian. Sputati prakashate artosma iti spotaha. Sputati prakashate artosma iti sparashaha. This is defining logos or spanda or like this word. That from which meaning bursts or shines forth is spata, is spanda, spota. That which meaning shines forth, right? So in a word we see, you say a word, you say any word, right? Even the word, right? Right. The sound even within the sound, there's a meaning behind the sound, right? That takes the shape of the sound and keeps expanding, right? There's the sound of the sound, the word, the meaning of the word. The word and its meaning are so identical, you can't separate them, right? That's the spanda or the spota, from which the very meaning comes, right? Another definition, spuyate vijate varneriti spotaha. That which is manifested by the phonemes, by the sounds. The sound of the word manifests something, right? The meaning that bursts forth, or the thing that's manifested from the very sounds itself. So if you say the word cow, you get the cow in your head, right? But of course, because we learned that the word cow means cow, or it's an attributed sound, right? But think of a cow without the name cow. Whatever you think of a cow, some name, whatever your name for cow comes, right? If you know the name, and the name and the meaning and the shape is so identical. You can't say it can't be separated, because if you go deep meditation and you can't pull these things apart, right? But it's not safe. You'll lose your mind if you try, because you lose your bearings in the world. But they're so close. Even the word cow is so close, right? But what about the word God, right? Because cow, I can think. The word God, but God is just an idea. So the word God is identical with the idea, but it's not a defined idea, right? But there are sounds that are more true than ideas, because our idea of God will change. We say the word God now. I said the word God when I was 10 years old. My mommy taught me the word and what it meant, right? And now I have a very different idea. When I say God, I mean all kinds of stuff. Right, and hopefully in 100 years, in a few years, hopefully soon, tomorrow morning during meditation, when I say God, I'll really know. I have a very mature idea of God, right? But my idea of God is maturing, but imagine if the word God was God, right? From that thing, the idea of God is not contained in the word. The word is it. That the very vibration is the thing. Right, a beautiful example that we were discussing recently from, I think I mentioned it some months ago in one of our classes. Swami Bhajanananda from Washington, D.C. Vedanta Center used it. He said, like words point, usually a word points to something. The word cow points to the idea of a cow, right? It's not the cow directly, but close, right? But imagine if you make out of clay a bunch of letters, and one of those letters, you spell the word clay, right? That's getting closer to how mantras work, right? The word clay is also clay. It's made of only clay. The wave is only the ocean, right? So it's like, so it's a word. So the name of God is a name, but it's like we out of that clay we made the word clay. Out of God, we made the idea God, or the word God, right? So this Swamiji is hinting. This is why mantras are so important. And then this spota has one word as its only possible symbol, and this is, guess. Do you know what the one word is the only possible symbol for the spota? Om. That's how we started, right? Om. And as there can be no possible means of analysis separate the word from the idea, Om and the eternal spota are inseparable, and therefore it is out of this holiest of all holy words, the mother of all names and forms, the eternal Om, that the whole universe may be supposed to have been created. But it may be said that, although thought and words are inseparable, yet as there may be various word symbols for the same thought, it is not necessary that this particular word Om should be the word representative of the thought out of which the universe has become manifested. To this objection we reply that this Om is the only possible symbol which covers the whole ground, and there is none other like it. The spota is the material of all the worlds, yet it is not any definite word in its fully formed state. That is to say, if all the peculiarities which distinguish one word from another be removed, what remains will be the spota. Therefore, the spota is called Nada Brahman, the sound Brahman. Now, as every word symbol intended to express the inexpressed spota will be particularized, Now, as every word symbol intended to express the inexpressible spota will so particularize it, there will no longer be the spota. This symbol which particularizes it, lest at the same time it's very complicated, and I'm not very good at this, which particularizes it the least, and at the same time most approximately expresses its nature, would be the true symbol thereof. Now, the word has to be the spota, but it's also going to it's going to change it. It's no longer the purest thing, right? But Om, Swamiji is going to make an argument for it. Not only means Brahman, it doesn't mean anything else. Nothing else is polluted. There's nothing else attached to it, right? I'll continue and then we'll see how he gives an example that will fill it. This is Om and Om only, because these three letters, A, U, and pronounced in combination as Om, may well be the generalized symbol of all possible sound. The letter or A, is the least differentiated of all sounds. Therefore, Krishna says in the Gita, I am among the letters. Again, all articulate sound are produced in the space within the mouth, beginning with the root of the tongue and ending with the lips. The throat sound is and is the last lip sound, and exactly represents the rolling forward of the impulse, which begins at the root of the tongue and ends at the lips. Is back here, the very first sound possible. Is the last possible sound, right? And is how you get from to right? So this one sound represents all sound. No other sound does that. Sounds are vowels are just are places within that we say, and consonants are stops to that, right? These are breaks of it. But Aum is all vowels together with no breaks, right? So it's a unique thing. It represents all possible sounds, or we could say all letters or all syllables or all vowels. Everything is, so it's the fullest picture, right? It's only one more pair. I'm late, but I want to finish the week because next week it's a wholly different topic. I don't want to. So this, therefore, is the fittest sound production, and no other word can do this. This, therefore, is the fittest symbol of the spota, which is the real meaning of Om. And as a symbol can never be separated from the thing signified, Om and spota are one, or Om and Brahman are one. Furthermore, as a spota, being the finer side of the manifested universe, is nearer to God, as indeed the first manifestation of divine wisdom, this Om is a true symbol of God. Another thing Sri described it, the water comes out of the Ganga at Gangotri, right? And so there it's, a second ago it was ice, right? If from ice, it immediately becomes water. So that's the purest water of the Ganga, right? You go to Calcutta, you say that's Ganga water. It's pure. We believe it's holy, but it's not pure. You hold it up and you see things swimming in it. It's not exactly, can't see through it anymore, right? But, so that's still Ganga water, right? But the purest Ganga water, that's at at Gomukh, the very place where it comes out of the glacier, right? From glacier to water. That's water, but it's also glacier, right? Om, it's the purest possible. It's the purest water that is the glacier. It's both glacier and water. That exact place where it comes out, right? So Om is that exact place where the spota becomes the manifest, or Brahman becomes spota, or spota becomes the manifested universe. Again, as a non-dual Brahman, the Akhanda Satchitananda, the undivided existence, knowledge, and bliss can be conceived by imperfect human souls only from particular standpoints and associated with particular qualities. So this universe, its body has to be thought of in accordance with particular trend of the thinker's mind. This direction of the worshipper's mind is guided by its prevailing element or tattva. As a result, the same reality will be seen in various manifestations as a possessor of various predominant qualities, and the same universe will appear full of manifold forms. Even as in the case of the least differentiated and most universal symbol, Om, thought and sound symbol are seen to be inseparably associated with each other, and also the law and their inseparable. And also this law of their inseparable association applies to the many differentiated views of God in the universe. Each of them, therefore, must have a particular word symbol to express it. This is tight. I won't have time to pull it apart. But how this is true, if it is true of Om, it's also true further down the thing of all the different ideas of God. Each one has a name. This is given that Om is the purest mantra, but all the mantra that the Guru whispers, is non-different from this, is different breaks of this. These word symbols evolve out of the deepest spiritual perception of the sages, symbolized and expressed as nearly as possible the peculiar view of God and the universe they stand for. As Om represents the Akhanda, the infinite, the undifferentiated Brahman, so the other represent the Khanda, the differentiated views of the same being, the gods and goddesses, the avatars. And they are all helpful in divine meditation and the acquisition of true knowledge. We'll end there. Then from there he'll jump. That's his jump, because his members is all one talk. It's been broken into chapters, but that's the setup for Ishta. Right? He's really building, very interesting how he's builded from the very first to the final thing. How from Om to the deities to the mantras, how Brahman manifests through the different tattvas, and then finally to why we choose one. Right? What does it mean? Why do we have one mantra? Why do we have one Ishta? Very interesting. Yeah, thank you for your kind attention. I would take questions, but